Welcome to PragerU lightning round number 3.
Racist, sexist, Republican, these words are virtually interchangeable.
I do not believe you are a racist.
I'm your host, Jackie Fox, and today we're going to be talking about two videos, both by the same presenter. The inconvenient truth about the Republican Party and why did the Democratic South become Republican?
What have Republicans done for women and blacks lately? The answer you'd hear from professors, journalists, and celebrities is not much. And this time they'd be right.
And in both of these videos, it's pretty much the same narrative, so I'm just going to do them both at the same time. There are a few things wrong with these videos, a lot of which stems with conflation of the historical Southern Democrats, which effectively seceded from the Democratic Party in the 1800s over the issue of slavery. The Southern Democrats were the last truly pro-slavery party, but the Southern Democratic sentiment that black people were subhuman persisted even after the abolition of slavery. And the grandchildren of their most fervent supporters vote Republican today. That's a fact, and even these videos don't try to deny it. Instead, they dispute why this happened, saying that the Southern strategy didn't happen, or leaving out key details so that you can't get a sense of the big picture. Around the turn of the century, the parties varied a lot more between the social and economic senses. Southern Democrats were on the social right, fighting against social positions like women's suffrage, as the video points out. Northern Democrats, who had been on the opposite side of a war from their Southern comrades over slavery, were more reflective of the social left and Democrats of today. Likewise, the Republicans had both economically liberal and conservative members. Republicans were almost non-existent in the South, as hard as that can be to believe today. This didn't end until the Civil Rights Movement, when the Democratic Party aligned itself with the social left and ideas like equality, and the voters who had supported the Southern Democrats, who were on the social right, were swept up by the Republicans. But from Reconstruction until the Civil Rights Movement, the Southern Democrats often employed shady and racist measures, practiced open racism, and kept enough Southern voters happy and incredibly loyal that almost no one could beat a Democrat in the South. Don't get me wrong, these are awful people, but the only major difference between them and the Republicans of the 1970s and 80s was a level of subtlety. But that's all just a build-up to this video's biggest lie, saying that the switch following the Civil Rights Act and the Republican Southern strategy to win the South didn't happen. The Southern strategy was meant to win over the former Southern Democratic voter by embracing a socially conservative position. As I said before, Southern Democrats were on the social right. As lifelong Republican strategist Lee Atwater is famous for saying in a 1981 interview, "I'm afraid I can't allow that." How did you get in here? Anyway, Lee Atwater was a political advisor to Reagan and H.W. Bush, the chair of the Republican National Committee, and even worked for a political lobbying group with none other than Paul Manafort. The gist of his Southern strategy, first championed in 1968, was this: socially conservative points like opposing busing on the grounds of states' rights.
Vice President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then? Do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America.
And financially conservative points like cutting social welfare programs could be shown to be racist in effect, but so coded that there could be plausible deniability and appeal to people who weren't racist. Normies, let's call them.
You say stuff like forced busing, states' rights and all that stuff.
What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
And you're getting so abstract now, you're talking about cutting taxes and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than white.
What actually happened was the social divide. where the Democratic Party was finally beginning to purge the Southern Democrats, most recently known as the States' Rights Democratic Party, also known as the Dixiecrats, solidified in support of civil rights acts, putting them on the social left, while social conservatives in the Republican Party welcomed the Dixiecrats in their Southern strategy to lock up the South for themselves. I really love Knowing Better's video on this topic. It really goes deep into how the South versus North and West divide in the votes was a lot more significant than the Democratic-Republican one. He's really good with issues like geography and history, so this issue is in his particular wheelhouse. I guess what I'm saying here is that these are not only bad arguments, but sometimes they're outright lies and propaganda, and it's not too hard to see past their disingenuousness if you take more than 5 minutes to look into it. And if PragerU has lied to you about all of these things, what else might they be lying about?
Alright, you know what to do by now. It's YouTube. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the links in the description.
Busing programs that date back to the 1970s. The whole point of it was to desegregate classrooms. The reason that it's back in the news is that in debate 1, night 2 last week on the Democratic side, when Kamala Harris called out Joe Biden during that debate, it was related to Joe Biden's policy on race-related issues, which includes that Joe Biden opposed federally required busing policy. And Donald Trump was asked about it.
On the question about busing, do you see it as a viable way of integrating schools? Does that relate to the policy that you're going to unveil?
Well, it has been something that they've done for a long period of time. I mean, you know, there aren't that many ways you're going to get people to schools.
Clearly having no idea what Kristen Welker from NBC News is asking him about. And yeah, it's as embarrassing and cringeworthy as it sounds.